Went on a trip with the family. Gave reward to earnest and kind John for being so good. A drinking trip, the best.
When I called Mike, he was having a great time drinking at his destination. His cheerful attitude made my blood boil. Despite the fact that Sarah was crying at home in the dark, holding a baby, because of Mike and John. Sarah's hair was mercilessly chopped short, and the left side of her head was shaved so much it could be considered bald. She didn't even have eyebrows, let alone hair. It seems that the two men punished her because Sarah cheated. "Chill your head," Mike snapped. I could believe it from Mike, but I never thought that John, who seemed like such a good young man, could do such a terrible thing. Who needs all this? This family, these memories, everything, useless. I've decided to ditch Mike and John too. I have no regrets or affection left. I am Linda Johnson. I'm a housewife in my late 50s for whom work is a passion. Right now, I am extremely excited because my only daughter, Sarah, is getting married. Today, her fiancé, John, is visiting our house to greet us. My husband and I, along with Sarah and John, sat facing each other. John sat straight like a student who came for a job interview, blinking a lot, clearly nervous.
I fell for Sarah, who was a reliable colleague at work, and I hit on her several times. I was almost discouraged by being turned down for movies and theme parks, but hanging out for a late dinner after overtime led to getting close with her.
Stop it, it's embarrassing. You don't need to tell them everything.
John scratched his head shyly.
Oh, really? Sorry, I thought I should tell your parents how we met.
The two were colleagues at work. Sarah is 4 years older than John and will turn 30 this year. A case of the wife being older, it seems. He seems like a tender guy, so maybe Sarah will be the more dominant one. John must be really nervous. His hand trembled slightly as he lifted his coffee cup. After drinking his coffee, John declared,
I will definitely make Sarah happy.
"John, take good care of Sarah, okay?"
Yes.
I was relieved that my daughter's fiancé seemed like a sincere guy. We said goodbye to Sarah and John at the front door and returned to the room. My husband, Mike, was lying on the couch, fiddling with his smartphone, where John had been sitting nervously earlier. During the meeting, Mike didn't speak a word. He's usually not very talkative, but he could at least say good morning. This time he didn't even mutter or aha. He just looked away with a grim face. It's no exaggeration to say that John's nervousness was because of Mike's attitude. During the meeting, I apologized to John, saying, "Mike is just nervous. He's not angry, so don't worry." I've heard that fathers often take their daughters' marriages harder than mothers. Imagining him sulking inside, thinking I don't want to lose Sarah, made it somewhat endearing. John seems like a good guy, huh? When I spoke up, Mike distorted his face and said, "What?" He often stays quiet when in a bad mood, but seldom snaps. His suddenly sullen voice made me tense up.
That's a good guy. You've got no judgment. He's just sucking up. Look, the booze he brought. My favorite kind. But it's expensive, so I don't buy it often. How annoying. He thinks giving me expensive booze will make me happy.
He probably got some inside info from Sarah about Mike's favorite things and picked out a gift in advance. After receiving his favorite treats, I can't understand why Mike still complains.
Working at the same company as Sarah means it's that place, right? Some unnecessarily huge, famous corporation. So what if it's a big business? They act all high and mighty just because they pay well. Showing off that he can afford expensive booze, so annoying.
Is it the complex feelings about his daughter's marriage that caused this outburst? No, as much as he might feel lonely about losing his daughter, this is crossing the line. Just stop it. We don't know John well enough yet to talk badly about him. He's the one Sarah chose. Let's trust her. When I made it clear, Mike slumped as if deflated. With no confidence, he hunched his back and mumbled, struggling to articulate his farts. This is typical of Mike. Unable to find the right words, he chose silence, but would slam doors or click his tongue in displeasure. It's rare for him to snap like he did just now, but the moment I interjected calmly, Mike would suddenly come to his senses and fall silent. It's sad that I can't share the joy of our daughter's marriage with Mike. I remembered a similar incident when Sarah decided to go to college.
What? She's going to college.
It was only in her senior year of high school that he first brought this up. Despite her always studying at home and attending tutoring classes, it seemed he hadn't noticed.
Why? There's no need for college, right? It's going to cost money, isn't it?
Sarah carefully expressed her desire to pursue further education. But Mike, whether listening or not, dug his little finger into his ear, looking in a completely different direction. As if to blow away Sarah's passionate argument, he blew on his dirty fingertip after pulling it out of his ear.
Well, study, huh? Instead of that, you should get out there, learn some work. There are college grads at my company, but I don't get why they get promoted over me. All that study talk is just lip service, considering college is just a place to play around. What's so great about a college degree anyway?
His prejudice was astounding. Yet, if I put my foot down, Mike would fall silent. Sarah was able to get into her top choice university without bending to his clearly bad mood. Not even a word of congratulations from Mike. His grumpy behavior became so routine that it hardly bothered me anymore. And now, with this marriage, whatever is bothering him has escalated beyond his usual grumpiness into outright yelling. John seemed to be bothered by Mike's attitude indeed. Despite understandably disliking dealing with such a rude Mike, he kept inviting him for drinks. Initially resistant, Mike gradually opened up as he shared drinks with John. This was probably because John made a point of being a good listener.
That's why, John, I don't like people with fancy degrees. Despite my longer experience in life, I can understand why someone with just a degree can climb the ladder so easily. Isn't this world messed up?
Indeed, Mike.
Mike was in a good mood at our dining table. When bringing over snacks, I said sorry to John, but he just smiled and gave a slight shake of his head.
I have high hopes for you, John. Despite being a college grad, you're humble. Yet, that's good. You're a grad and yet not in a high position. You must really be incompetent at your job.
When Mike started belittling him, I quickly intervened. John just smiled and said, "It's okay."
See, look. In our house, the wife is the boss, calling the shots. I failed in educating my wife. But there's still hope with you, John. Think of your wife as your servant. Don't worry if you can't make it big at work. People don't judge us fairly anyway. Make your home your kingdom. Got it?
Yes, I understand, Mike.
This was the first time I saw Mike so drunk. Usually, he might be pleased because a college-educated person was showing him respect. But that doesn't excuse his offensive words. Yet John continued to boost Mike's ego without losing his smile. What an incredible person he is. He was making efforts to get along with his fiancée's father. Surely Sarah's future is bright. I felt completely assured they would have a wonderful married life. Recognized by Mike, Sarah and John got married smoothly, and now live in an apartment about a 20-minute ride from our house. Soon after, Sarah became pregnant.
Going back to your parents for the birth. No way, kids are too noisy.
Sarah had asked to come home for her delivery, but Mike flat out refused. It's your first childbirth, so it must be nerve-wracking. Sarah, I'll cut back on work and support you properly. And Mike, it won't bother you. So please let's allow them to come in. We're family, after all. With just that, Mike pouted and fell silent. It's like I have to do whatever you say. I could almost hear his inner voice. It's not that I want to ignore Mike's feelings. So I explained how crucial postpartum support is, but Mike wouldn't say a word anymore, leaving me at a loss. She'll be coming the day after tomorrow. She'll be coming tomorrow. I kept counting down to inform Mike, and somehow managed to let Sarah come home for the birth. And Sarah safely delivered, now resting peacefully at our home. The newborn granddaughter was named Emily. Holding a baby for the first time in a long while, she felt soft and smelled sweet. Even Mike couldn't help but smile at her cuteness. He wouldn't bother with the baby, pretending to pass by, but then sneaking glances at Emily. After about a month of rest, the day came for Sarah to return to her own home. John came to pick them up, and I felt a bit sad that this happy time was ending.
John, must have been tough alone, huh? Sorry for spoiling her by letting her go back to her parents' home. She's been lazing around here as if making up for a lifetime. When you get home, make sure she makes up for the slack.
Mike probably said this, trying to sound important, treating John like a subordinate. As I was about to scold him, John spoke up first.
All right, got it, Mike.
John seemed to have gotten used to handling Mike. He agreed to avoid conflict, just going along with the conversation.
I don't want to leave.
Sarah muttered anxiously. It was unusual for her, normally so reliable. What's wrong? Before Sarah could say anything, John put his arm around her shoulder.
You can't keep relying on your mom forever.
Sarah nodded, her face strained as if holding back tears. Maybe she found it hard to leave the comfort of her childhood home. It'll be difficult for me to help out as much from now on, but with John by her side, there shouldn't be anything to worry about. This past month, I've significantly cut back on work. I've been coming home early to avoid overtime, and even took a few days off. Far from being tired from caring for Emily, I felt energized and motivated for work. At the office, they were just waiting to send me on a business trip. I'm fired up to buy toys for my adorable granddaughter. And a few days later, I returned from the business trip. It's late tonight, so I'll drop off the gifts at Sarah's tomorrow and get to hold Emily. Excited about this plan, I was about to open my front door when I faintly heard a baby crying. It was a frail, weak cry. I was happy to think Sarah was at our house, but suddenly, a sense of unease washed over me. Something was wrong. That's right, my house was completely dark. As I opened the door, the crying grew louder. No doubt about it. Emily was inside the house. But why was there no light on anywhere? Sarah, are you there? No response. Only Emily's crying echoed through. Kicking off my shoes, I hurried through the house. When I opened the door to the living room, I could vaguely make out a figure in the dark. Tentatively, I turned on the light. Yikes! I involuntarily screamed and stepped back. There was Sarah, holding Emily and shedding tears, but I couldn't recognize her at first, because her hair was chopped up unevenly, and the left side of her head was almost completely shaved. Sarah, are you okay? What happened? Rushing to Sarah, I realized she didn't even have eyebrows, let alone hair. I almost screamed again, but instead, I hugged her tightly. Her hoarse crying was directly in my ears, making my chest unbearably tight. I held her for a long time. She finally whispered the reason for this mess.
Dad did this.
What? Why? No matter how irritable or angry he got, he had never resorted to violence. Could this be a mistake? But Sarah's next words only confused me more.
And, John.
What? That was unthinkable. Not the John I knew, the picture of a good young man. Reeling from the shock, I caught Sarah's vacant eyes looking at me. In that moment, I was certain of the truth. Sarah would never lie. But why? With difficulty, Sarah revealed a shocking reason.
Because I cheated.
That can't be.
I mean, really.
Despite my complete trust in Sarah, the story seemed unbelievable. Holding back my urge to scream, I called Mike to verify the facts.
Hey, hello.
Mike answered the phone cheerfully. The background noise indicated he was out somewhere. It seemed like he was drinking. Where are you? I tried to ask gently after taking a deep breath, but my tone unintentionally became harsh. Yet, Mike seemed too absorbed in his enjoyment to care about that.
On a trip with the family.
Family? Who?
John, rewarding good. Kind John with a drinking trip. The best. You're on a business trip, trying to look good, but you're just eating local food, right? The booze and food are always better on trips.
Sarah was trembling right beside me, yet Mike responded cheerily. He apparently didn't remember that my business trip was ending today. A drinking trip. Just the two of you guys. What about Sarah and Emily?
Oh, they're at home. Had some issues, needed to cool off. So we decided to take a trip.
It hurt to respond with a fake "I see," and I pulled the phone away from my ear. Anger overflowed, but venting it to this cheerful man seemed pointless.
Men need a break too, you know. It's unfair women always use kids as an excuse to rest. That's why I took a week off. Let the office folks learn they can't function without me. You'll find the house a mess when you get back. Thought I would clean. No way, I'm not a cleaning robot.
Behind Mike's assertions, I heard a voice chiming in. Exactly, exactly. Unfortunately, it was John's voice. Any faint hope that John had just been swept along by Mike was dashed. As I stood there stunned after ending the call, Sarah told me.
He wasn't a good person. Rather, John was.
Tears flowed from Sarah's eyes again. Even Emily, whom I was holding, started to fuss, sensing the sadness. I didn't want to see their tears anymore. Hurting Sarah, and then what? A trip, a family. What were those 30 years we spent with Mike supposed to mean? A father who would push away his own daughter after 30 years of care is no longer needed. I asked Sarah in a calm voice, her body trembling. Do you need such a family, Sarah? Shall we let them go? As I spoke, 30 years of memories flashed before me. The day Sarah was born. The first time Sarah called him Daddy. Mike was overjoyed, crying and jumping around. It seemed he genuinely loved her when she was little. I almost thought he wasn't all bad, but then I remembered how he would become grumpy over trivial things. He once got sulky because Sarah called me Mommy more often than Daddy and left us in a distant park. The bad memories outnumber the good by about 100-fold, not to mention what he did to Sarah. As a member of the family, Mike was utterly unnecessary. Sarah, still trembling, looked me straight in the eye as if understanding my resolve.
We don't need them.
Hearing her response, I nodded deeply. Who needs all this? This family, these memories, everything, useless. I resolved to abandon Mike and John. There was not a trace of regret or sentiment left. A week later, Mike bombarded me with calls non-stop. Because he was so persistent, I answered. Bracing myself for a scolding, I partially covered my ear, but Mike's voice was unusually feeble, almost probing.
The house is gone.
When I didn't respond immediately, Mike continued nervously.
I'm pretty sure I'm at the right place. But the house, it's just gone, right, John? This is where the house was, right?
Yeah, it's gone.
He must have felt like he was dreaming. Anyone would be confused if something as permanent as their home simply vanished. Returning to their familiar home after a week, they found nothing there. No gate, no flower bed, not even the large house. Everything was gone, leaving just a bare plot of land. Oh, that property. I sold it.
You sold it? What do you mean, sold it?
Mike's voice rose in pitch. He was too bewildered to even be angry. I sold it to a real estate agent. The house was pretty run down, being a used property, and more than that, I didn't want to live in a house steeped in memories with you. I thought it'd be better to tear it all down. It was my house, in my name. So I did what I wanted with it.
What? No way, right?
Mike's deflated lament was irritating. Ignoring him or being yelled at was unpleasant. But his weak and whiny behavior was especially grating. Mike, always feeling inferior, harbored resentment towards me. Because I earned more. I never blamed or looked down on him for it, but he was always concerned about it.
No. But how can you just do this?
Why, I wondered, did he think this? There must be a reason he resorted to such drastic measures. It's about Sarah.
Oh.
Surely he hadn't forgotten about Sarah while indulging in a week-long escapade.
No, it's different. It's Sarah's fault. Sarah, she cheated, believe it.
Cheated?
Yes. That's why I cut her hair, to make her reflect. Maybe if I shave her head, she'll really think about what she've done. With that look, No man would approach her, preventing any cheating.
As if she had time to cheat while caring for a newborn. But apparently, John suspected her of cheating. John abruptly cut into the call.
Listen, Linda. There are days when Sarah doesn't do any housework. What was she doing all day?
That's a man's doing.
Right, Mike?
So, the shallow conclusion drawn by these two men was just cheating. Why didn't they consider childcare as the reason for not being able to do housework? Leaving all the childcare to the wife, showing no interest, is evidence enough.
There is evidence. I saw messages on Sarah's phone with a man from her work. Thanks for the baby gift. Sarah, when confronted, had received a designer bib from the man. Exchanging gifts, they must be close.
I already heard the situation from Sarah. A close female colleague at work, along with a few others, had given her a baby shower gift. Normal people wouldn't think of infidelity over small gifts like baby bibs or socks.
So I thought of getting Mike to scold her. Then he started cutting her hair to make her reflect. Typical of Mike, teaching the husband-wife hierarchy.
John sounded furious. Sarah didn't cheat.
Oh yes, if a woman isn't attending to the house, it means there's another man.
Was John always like this? I despised myself for once believing he was a reliable, good young man. If that's the case, let me say this. Do you suspect cheating because you're the one doing it?
What? No, that's not.
He was visibly flustered. I heard from Sarah earlier. You used her absence during her maternity at her parents' to bring women to your house, didn't you?
How did you?
Just as I thought. You seem to underestimate Sarah a lot, but your actions have been transparent all along. I could hear him gasping for air. Bringing different women to your house nearly every day, letting them take care of household chores and even your personal needs. I know you've been paying them. Did you use some popular dating app? Must have enjoyed feeling like a king. In fact, Sarah was aware of all John's betrayals. When she tried to confront John about his cheating, he turned aggressive and attacked her.
John cheated.
Despite Sarah's complaints, the foolish Mike wholeheartedly believed John. He probably preferred his flattering son-in-law over his own daughter.
It can't be. So, John cheated as revenge for Sarah's supposed affair.
John fell silent. Even if Mike's influence changed him, it didn't excuse his grievous mistake.
And who destroys a home over infidelity?
Mike still didn't grasp the gravity of his actions. It's not just the cheating. I'm angry because Sarah was hurt. Even after saying this, Mike and John remained nonchalant.
She got hurt. I don't recall cutting her ear with scissors.
I used a clipper for the first time. It was easy. Maybe I could become a barber.
The conversation was going nowhere. Sarah had faced them alone and been harmed. She must have been terrified. She must have been anxious about Emily possibly being attacked too. Anyway, I've had it with Mike. As you can see, there's no home for you to return to. Since you seem to prefer John, let him take care of you. Your belongings are all at John's place. Of course, neither Sarah nor Emily is there. After declaring this, I heard two voices of dismay, saying, "Oh no." I braced for a more furious reaction, but perhaps the shock of coming back to find their home gone was too overwhelming to grasp fully. After ending the call, the two showed up at John's apartment. Sarah and I could monitor their actions through a certain method.
Wow, a mountain of cardboard boxes. These are Mike's, right?
She really did it. The house really is gone. See, my wife looks down on me. Even with an education and good income, she's failed as a wife.
To still speak ill of me at this point was astounding.
But is it true, John, that you were the one cheating, not Sarah?
I did give money to women for fun.
Mike groaned in dismay.
Why did it get out? If you play around, you've got to be smart about it. Apologizing to Sarah now would be galling. Just have to stick with "I didn't cheat. I don't know anything."
Understood.
Mike then slumped onto the couch, fidgeting restlessly.
Since Sarah also received gifts from a man, and most importantly, my wife who destroyed the house is overwhelmingly to blame. Yet, we're not the bad ones.
He might be panicking inside, pretending to be confident. Knowing it was futile to talk, I couldn't help but speak up. Who's not to blame?
Yikes.
Startled by my sudden voice in the room, Mike jumped like a frog. I thought you might reflect a bit, but you're just trying to save your skin.
What? Where are you?
Mike and John rushed together, looking around, hands clasped. They kicked around the cardboard boxes as if they thought I was hiding in them. As I said before, I see everything you do. I've been watching through this camera.
What? Camera?
They searched the room and finally noticed the camera on the shelf. Sarah and I had been watching them through a baby monitor camera set up inside. We could also communicate through it.
A hidden camera. You were spying. That's outrageous.
John's face twisted unrecognizably on the camera close up. Sarah, clinging to me, inhaled sharply, then stated with resolve.
Spying? That's an awful way to put it. It's just a camera to watch over the child.
Spying is spying. Daring to do this, woman. Next time, shaving your head won't be enough. How about I make sure you can use those eyes?
Faced with John's rage, I was at a loss for words. The facade of the good young man was shattered. On the last day of her visit our home, Sarah's profile whispering "I don't want to go back" came to mind. Apparently, John changed after marriage. Even though both Sarah and John worked, he gradually showed a domineering attitude that housework is a woman's job and a wife should serve her husband.
Surprisingly, the camera caught all of John's abuse and cheating. Oh, what a shock.
Sarah, safe elsewhere, kept her composure, aggravating John further. With his face red with fury, John lunged at the camera and smashed it to the floor. The camera on the floor captured John's tantrum.
Damn it. Just because you're a woman, you think you can trap me. Don't underestimate men.
John, who graduated from a good university and works at a respectable corporation, is acting like a child. I thought he was just going along with Mike, but maybe he deeply agreed with him. John, are you putting yourself down? Is it because Sarah earns more than you? If that's the case, you should improve your skills instead of dragging others down.
It's because you don't have those abilities that you act tough.
While stomping his feet in a quick pace, John hurled vile words, attacking Sarah's character.
Presumptuous for a woman.
His unbearable insults continued. After a few minutes of listening, Sarah said softly,
This camera has a recording feature, you know.
The verbal abuse stopped instantly. Shifting from insults to pained cries, I didn't mean it like that. I love Sarah. I was just being spoiled. He began to make excuses. There's nothing more revolting than the tears of someone who was just boastful. Disgusted, Sarah and I ended the call. John dragged Mike along, and they both expressed apology, peering into the camera. Seeing the tear-streaked faces of the two just made us feel uncomfortable. An apologetic performance like this was too late. What follows is what I heard from Sarah. The next day, John went to work with a haggard face. Perhaps because it was his first day back at work after a week's leave, his colleagues' stares pierced through John.
What's wrong? Oh, are you worried about my swollen eyes? Kind of looks like pink eye, huh?
John's eyes were bloodshot from crying during yesterday's apologies. Despite his attempt to laugh it off, the coldness in his colleague's eyes remained. He felt as if openly hostile, overwhelmed by the atmosphere. Then Sarah appeared. Though it was not strange for her to be there as they worked at the same company, John was as shocked as if seeing a ghost.
Why are you here?
John screamed.
I came to thank for the baby shower gift.
What? Now? That's not necessary right now. Don't look at me with that scary face.
It mattered because it was now. Sarah wore a hat, but the shaved eyebrows and hairline were clearly visible. No one could see her without being shocked. Her colleagues were skeptical of her modest account of John, but his panicked reaction revealed the truth.
It's not true. I'm not the bad one. She's a bad wife. I was just trying to make her reflect. No, I didn't do anything. I don't know anything.
No matter how much he tried to dodge, he couldn't escape the truth. Eventually, Sarah and John divorced. The reason for their divorce quickly spread throughout the company, making John's life miserable. Despite clinging to his corporate job, it was over for John.
Fired. Fired. No way. After enduring all the bullying from everyone. Fired.
Sarah had reported the abuse to the police. John was prosecuted at home and fined. He might have thought it wasn't a big deal since he didn't go to jail, but a criminal record still attached to him. He couldn't complain about being fired for misconduct. The baby monitor camera, disconnected for a while, finally showed John's head. His hair cleanly shaved, scalp gleaming blue.
Can you see? Sarah, I was wrong. I'm a criminal now and unemployed. Are you satisfied? As you can see, I've shaved my head. I'm reflecting.
Without hesitation, Sarah started the call.
If only we could turn back time.
Sarah. Yeah, right. Let's go back in time and start over.
Sarah's hair had finally grown enough to be styled into a very short cut, and her eyebrows were even again. With her distinct features, she looked like a stylish woman. Her expression much brighter now.
It's impossible. Time doesn't rewind. And even if it could, I'd go back to before I met John and avoid you entirely.
Sarah's voice was steady.
This is the last time we'll talk like this. I've asked a lawyer to handle the rest.
A lawyer? We're already divorced. What more is there?
Compensation for the affair. I told you, the camera has a recording function. We have irrefutable evidence.
John, who had been kneeling, punched the floor in frustration.
I'm unemployed, okay? I've been arrested, too. Are you still going to go through with this? Ruthless?
I immediately turned off the call. There's no time to listen to his ranting. As for Mike, the instigator of all this mess, he's whining about not wanting to divorce me. He too has a criminal record for assaulting Sarah and has been fired from his long-time job. No home, no job, and he doesn't want to lose his family too. He's even ambushed me near my workplace.
I got mad because Sarah earns more than me. Just wanted to discipline her with John, like some sort of education, I guess. Went too far, but I didn't mean any harm.
It seems Sarah was attacked because of his inferiority complex. No bad intentions.
Of course not. No ill intent at all. Shocked that it's come to this. Involving the police in family matters, that's harsh. But I can forgive that.
I can't understand why he thinks he's in a position to forgive. Hurting someone without bad intentions is even more terrifying. You don't understand what you did wrong, so there's no chance for rehabilitation. I don't want to be near someone so frightening, risking harm to my precious daughter and granddaughter again.
Sarah is important to me too. Are you just going to take her away from me? We're family, right?
Hearing the word family from him is infuriating. Mike shamelessly begged.
Where are you guys living now? Let's live as a family again. I have nowhere to go. I tried to go back to my parents' home, but they wouldn't even open the door, saying you're no longer our son. Did you snitch on them about the Sarah's matter? Even my father disowned me, so you're all I can rely on.
Sarah had told my in-laws herself. The sight of their grandchild's pitiful state made them dizzy with shock. Given he was the instigator, they wouldn't take Mike back. In the end, Mike had nowhere to go. He lurked around the vacant lot where our house used to be, living on the ground for days, until reported as a suspicious person and lost his spot again. His last resort was John's place. Though the living room camera was disconnected, the bedroom camera was still working.
Hey, still no job. Guess people without an education are just hopeless.
What? You're just a temp worker yourself.
Even with a record, I'm smart enough to be employed. Unlike someone with a record and no brains. Can't even land a temp job, can you?
Their petty quarreling unfolded. Despite their arguments, they seemed strangely compatible. Sarah quietly deleted the baby monitor app. She had no interest in their fate. There was no need to watch anymore. With only John's part-time income, they would likely soon be unable to afford the rent and end up homeless together. Meanwhile, Sarah, Emily, and I were living together. More than 6 months after the turmoil, Sarah's hair had grown to cover her ears. The longer her hair grew, the more her smile returned to normal. I worried she might become withdrawn, but she's been actively going out, not wanting to waste her maternity leave.
There's something to learn even from such a father. There are things more important than education or income.
Sarah, stroking Emily's head, had a genuinely kind face. Emily, with 2 tiny teeth peeking out, grinned widely. I want to protect this smile. Catching each other's eye, Sarah and I surely shared the same sentiment.